In this video, we're going to be building a simple calculator app in SwiftUI. So in our new Xcode project window, we're going to create an iOS application. And we're going to go ahead and click Next. And I'm just going to call this Calculator. And we're going to make sure we have SwiftUI chosen for the interface and SwiftUI app for the lifecycle. We click Next. And I'm just going to go ahead and create this on my desktop. And so now we're taking a look here at our content view.swift file. We can see in our preview the hello world placeholder text that they've put here for us. So now I'm going to create a VStack to hold the various UI elements we'll be adding to our calculator, different text and buttons. I'm also going to go ahead and delete this text here. So now we have just an empty VStack we can put all of our UI in. In here, we need to create something to display the number a user has typed in. We are just going to display it as text. For now, I'm going to enter a placeholder value. And you can see that the text is very small, so let's set the font size to be much larger. So .font and .system. And we'll set the size to be 60. Now let's create the buttons for entering in numbers. We're going to have a 3x3 grid of numbers from 1 to 9. To create that, we will have 3 H-stacks with 3 buttons in each. And so the first button we're going to put here is 7. And then we'll create another button, and that will have 8 in it. And we'll create a third button, which will have 9 in it. And notice none of these buttons actually do anything. And these buttons are very small. So let's go to the bottom and set the font to .title. This will increase the font of everything in the VStack, but notice how this text is not affected because we explicitly set its font size. Let's also set some spacing for our H-stack to give our buttons a little more room. We'll just set it to 32. And our text is a little close to our buttons as well, so let's set the spacing in our VStack to be 32 as well. That gives us a little more room. To create the other buttons, just copy and paste this H-stack down here. And we'll change the numbers to 4, 5, and 6. And we'll just do the same thing to create another row. And we'll change these to 1, 2, and 3. And we need one more number button for 0, and we'll put that on its own right here. Now we need to make it so that a user can actually type in a number. So let's scroll to the top of our file and let's create a new variable to store the number in. We're going to mark it @state private var displayed number. And it's going to be an optional double because the user may not have typed a number in yet. And let's use this variable instead of the hard-coded value to display the number. We are going to use string interpolation to display our double. So just put displayed number here. That doesn't quite work because we have an optional double. So let's use nil coalescing to display a default value if we don't have a number. And I'll just do 0. Let's take a look at how that looks. And notice the extra decimal places being printed. That's because we're using a double, and Swift adds those when you convert a double to a string. We want to use a double to handle decimal places, but we don't want to show all those trailing zeros. So for now, let's just cast this as an int, which will get rid of those trailing zeros, and we'll come back to this with a better solution later. It's time to make these buttons actually update our displayed number. So let's scroll to the bottom of the file and create a new function here. It's going to be func type number with a double as its parameter. So now let's unwrap our optional displayed number into current num. Else, if it is nil, we will do something else. So if we don't have a displayed number, then we will just set the displayed number to be the number that was typed in. If we do have a number that is currently displayed, then we'll need to do some math to add that digit to our current number. So we will set our displayed number equal to our current number times 10 plus our number that was just typed in. So if a user types in 7 and then types 4, it will take the 7, multiply it by 10 to get 70, and then add the 4 to make it 74. And now we are ready to call this function in every number button. So we'll do type number 7, type number 8, type number 9, type number 4, type number 5, type number 6, type number 1, and 2, 3, and 0. And so let's run this and try it out. And I can type in numbers and it adds the new digits correctly. And now let's add some new buttons. And we're going to put them next to the 0 button. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that in an H stack. So the first new button I'm going to be adding is the clear button. And then we're going to be adding an equals button. And the spacing is a little off here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the spacing of this H stack to 32 to match the rest of them. And so let's go ahead and make that clear button do something. We create a new function called clear, and all that's going to do is set the displayed number to nil. And so let's call that in our button, so we'll just call clear. I'm going to go ahead and use the simulator. Swift Preview is giving me some issues here. And so now I can type in numbers, and when I press the clear button, it clears it. Okay. And we need a few more buttons. So I'm going to create another H stack for our plus, minus, multiply, and divide buttons. So we're going to put 4 buttons in here, and we'll do plus here and minus. And for multiply, I'm just going to put an X. And then for divide, I'm just going to paste in this division's Unicode character. And let's go ahead and run that and take a look. So it doesn't quite match up with our other buttons, but we'll fix that in a later video. We now have all the buttons we need to make this calculator functional. Now to represent the different operations we'll be performing, I'm going to create an enum named operation. And it's going to have 4 cases. So we have case add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So we'll scroll down to the bottom of our file here, and we're going to write a new function for when the user presses one of these operation buttons. So we're going to call this func set operation, and it's going to take our operation enum as a parameter. Now we have to remember the operation that a user has selected, and we also have to allow the user to enter another number. So we're going to scroll back up to the top of our file, and we're going to add a few more variables. So the first is going to be an @state private var previous number, and that's also going to be an optional double. And that's going to represent the first number that a user has typed in. And next we'll create another @state private var current operation, and that's going to be an optional operation. If we scroll back down to our set operation function, so we want to make sure that we have a displayed number first. So we're going to check if it's nil. And we also want to make sure that we don't have a previous number. So basically we're trying to make sure that the user has typed in their first number and this isn't their second number that they're typing in. So we'll set the previous number to our displayed number, and then we'll set our current operation to whatever operation was passed in, and we'll set our displayed number to nil so we can accept a new number. If we scroll up to our plus and minus buttons, we can go ahead and call that function here. So we'll do set operation, and we'll do dot to get some autocomplete here for our enum, and we'll just do dot add. And then over here we'll do set operation dot subtract and dot multiply and dot divide. So the last thing we need to do is make our equals button function. So we're going to create a new function called equals, and this will just perform the calculation. So we need to make sure that we have a previous number, a displayed number, and an operation. Otherwise we can't perform a calculation. So I'm going to unwrap our previous number into prev number so we can have it as a non-optional. And then I'll do the same thing with our displayed number and our current operation. And if any of these are nil, we'll just return because we can't perform the calculation. And to perform the correct calculation, we're going to do a switch on our current operation, specifically the non-optional. I'm going to go ahead and delete this placeholder code here. So we'll do it on cur operation. And we're just going to make sure we cover all the different cases of our enum. So we have case.add. And all we need to do is set our displayed number equal to our previous number plus our displayed number. And notice I'm using the non-optionals to perform the calculation. And we'll do the same thing for subtract. We'll take previous number and this time subtract the displayed number for it. And then we'll do multiply. Just set the displayed number equal to the previous number times the displayed number. And last we'll do divide. Displayed number is equal to the previous number divided by the displayed number. And that performs the calculation. Last, all we need to do is set our previous number equal to nil. And we'll set our current operation to nil as well. We are done with the calculation, and we now just have one displayed number. So let's go ahead and run that. I'm going to try 5 times 2, and the equals button is not functioning. So it looks like I forgot to call it when the equals button is pressed. So let's go ahead and add that call here to our equals function. And let's go ahead and run that again. So now let's do 5 times 2. That's equal to 10. And now let's subtract 3. And that's equal to 7. So our calculator is fully functional at this point, but there's a few edge cases and user interface issues that need to be addressed. And we'll tackle those in the next video.